Obesity is the disproportion between your weight and your height. Normally, doctors calculate obesity through the body mass index, or BMI. Basically, you take your weight and divide it by your height squared. I, for example, have 1 meter and 80 of height, and my mass is 75 kilograms, so my BMI is 20.8. But what does this number mean? On my side is the BMI table, the body mass index. You will notice that if you have a BMI between 18 and 25, you have a normal weight, and then above that, after 30 you are technically an obese dude. And then it goes to the heights. There is obesity 1, 2, and then there is severe obesity. And this is curious, my friends, because if you have 1.65 of height and 100 kilograms of mass, you already have a BMI of 30, that is, you are already obese. So, to find out more, I interviewed a local Vietnamese to find out what he eats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Breakfast, I often eat some bread with sticky rice with egg or meat, or sometimes vegetable. In lunch, I often have 2 or 3 bowls of rice with vegetable soup, with egg, fish, meat. It's not always this, but sometimes we have fish, sometimes we have meat. At the dinner, I eat less because it's the last meal of the day. So I often have 1 or 2 bowls of rice, fish, meat, vegetable, onion, garlic. That's all.
That's all. Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The obesity rate in the world has tripled since 1975, and today we have countries like the US, where 35% of the population is obese, and also countries like Brazil, where 22% of the population is obese. This is curious, because it means that 1 in every 5 Brazilians is obese. Currently, the country with the most obese people in the world is called Nauru. It's a small island in the Pacific, where 61% of its population is obese. But how must the life of the least obese country in the world be, with only 2% of its population obese? And it's not a small country, dude. It's a big country with 100 million inhabitants. Vietnam. When you are walking on the streets of Vietnam, the first thing you notice is that everything here is fresh. It seems like things are made on the spot. Me and Ada, when we were traveling by motorbike here in Vietnam, every 20 meters there was a house that had chickens, cattle, gardens and much more, which gives the impression that they themselves produce their own food. It is impossible not to notice how fresh the food is here. This makes a big difference, because in Brazil and the United States, for example, almost everything you eat has preservatives, so that these foods last a long time. Here I have the impression that almost nothing I eat has preservatives. Really, almost everything here is made to order, and that helps them stay so healthy. Well, in order to talk about food, one must eat. So I will show you here the most traditional dish of Vietnam, called pho. Pho is a traditional dish here in Vietnam and you find it in basically every place. And it consists of a soup with noodles made of rice, meat, and some greens. It's a very good food, but in my opinion it doesn't fill you up much. So this one right here is pho, and you eat it with these 2 little sticks. While I was traveling by motorbike through Vietnam with Ada, we ate this basically every day, because that's what you find on every corner here in Vietnam. And well, what can I say? This is the traditional food of these guys. While I'm enjoying this delicious pho, I want to show you some weird things I found on the menu of this food truck here in Vietnam. Salmon stomach. Rice with egg and brain. Brain, some creature's brain. Various types of frogs. Roasted frog, fried frog. And many other ways to eat frogs. And for me, the weirdest of all. Pigeon. Now this is surprising. There are only 17 McDonald's here in Vietnam. And that in a country with 100 million inhabitants. In comparison, in Brazil we have more than 2,500 McDonald's. Brands like Starbucks, Burger King and McDonald's are failing miserably here in Vietnam. Elsewhere in the world they are spectacular. But here they are like any other food store. The food sector here in Vietnam has about 530,000 retail outlets. Of those, 430,000 are street kiosks, 80,000 are restaurants, 22,000 are bars and cafes, and only 7,000 are fast food places like McDonald's. If the food sector were Batman for the Vietnamese, fast food would be the pants Robin was wearing last week. Now let's take a look at this McDonald's here. Well, the first big difference, the air conditioning in here is really good. Now let's select our snack here. English. Eat in. They have the cheeseburger, double cheeseburger, triple cheeseburger and the Big Mac. And the chicken and fish option too. So compared to the United States and Brazil, in Brazil there are 3 times more burger options than this McDonald's here. And also, judging by the fact that this McDonald's is in the city center, it's not that crowded. And also clearly the war that happened between the United States and Vietnam a few years ago really influenced the culture of fast food here. But do you want to know what has more influence than fast foods in Vietnam? Prices. A mango smoothie for less than $1. And a mango juice for around $1. All of these fried rice dishes, which they eat a lot of here, for a little more than $2. Another dish that's also really good, with some greens and meat, for not much more than $2 as well. Now pho, that dish we always eat, and here it costs only $3. But on the street, which is where Ada and I used to eat pho, it cost on average $1. So cheap. Realistically speaking, it is much more worth it for you to eat the local food than a fast food meal. Because not only is it cheaper, but it is also served at the same speed. You order the food and in 5 minutes it is already on your table, and you still get the bonus of being healthier. That's curious, because Hanoi is a quite touristic city, but now we're going to a city with 0 tourists to see how the locals truly feed themselves. In Hanoi there's a lot of food that's just for tourists, and that's why here is the real deal. Let's go. Another thing I like about walking around these inland cities, is that I can contemplate the real life of the locals, like dogs sleeping in the middle of the street and photographs of chickens on the facade. Those cute tiny tables where the locals eat and much more. It's a quite interesting experience, but let's go for the food. Since this is a very small city, we are here in front of the road that cuts it from end to end. And that is interesting, because most Vietnamese live outside the city. So here we're standing, before the food that the population really eats. This is a roadside restaurant that doesn't have a menu. And when the traveler arrives they offer pho, or any other food. Pho is by far what they eat the most, and always accompanied by a variety of teas. They love teas. Well, this is the restaurant. And as you can see it's all very simple, and with absurdly fresh food. This is what they have as menu. Pho, bun, calm as rice, and there's bo, which is like beef, and ga, which is chicken. Basically, that is it. And now it's dinner time. Alright, now it's dinner time and Hanoi is a city that's really alive at night. Look at all this movement. This place is really touristy, but it also has a lot of locals walking around. Look at all the food. Hot pot, which is a dish that you build and cook yourself and fill up. There are cheese sticks, like French fries, but with cheese. French fries, corn, various salads, and also various fried things. It's also not that healthy at this time of night, but you can still find healthy options easily. Vietnam is really a different country. A month ago I was in the United States, and in that place it is very rare to find anything healthy to eat, and as I showed you in one of the videos I did there, a hamburger costs $2, while 250 grams of watermelon costs $6. But Vietnam is the opposite. Healthy foods are cheaper and also more accessible. So I think this contributes a lot to this country remaining so healthy. And of course the economic factor also contributes, but the accessibility to healthy food makes all the difference. And that, my friends, is the reality here in Vietnam. See ya folks on my next video.